Okay, it's time for our NHL Conference Finals preview. Joe Tilley here, along with Ross Granato. And Ross, we did pretty good in the last round. I think we got 3 out of 4, and of course, we both missed out on the Toronto series, but it looked really good for a while there when they were up 2-0 and up a couple of goals in Game 3. It really looked like this was going to be their year. Then suddenly, the defending champions showed us why they're the defending champions, didn't they?
They sure did, yeah. Thank you again for having me on. And yeah, I mean, we like you said, we did do pretty good. Dallas moved on, Edmonton moved on, Carolina moved on. Just unfortunately, the Leafs couldn't get the job done. And I think what it just came down to is kind of what a bit that I touched on for our last preview is that I feel that especially in Game 7, Florida was able to create more energy than the Leafs. And I think that was the Leafs' main downfall, especially being on home ice. You know, energy is something that is going to make you win games, especially in the playoffs. And it just seemed like no matter what, they couldn't really get the crowd into it or, for each other, get each other into it. And I just felt like that was their downfall.
Yeah, the first couple of games are great at home, but
Mm.
the last 2 home games were games 5 and 7. They're brutal in both games, and yeah, the crowd wasn't really into it. That last game, the first I don't know 5 minutes of the game. At one point, the shots were 6-love, and I thought I was watching a tennis match,
Yeah.
and but the Leafs came back and they actually tied them on shots before the period ended, and there was some energy in the building. And when they made it 3-1, there was more energy in the building, but they just couldn't sustain it at all. Whereas Florida just kept coming at them, and I guess that's the difference in between experience and between the type of roster that just does not understand the word quit. I mean, I really was impressive that the fact that the Leafs won Game 6 in Florida. That was a huge character win. I just thought that they might be able to build from that, and I'm kind of astounded that they couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like you said, like that Game 6 win, I'm sure it had almost every single Leaf fan extremely confident that Game 7 was not going to be a 6-1 blowout
No.
like we saw. I thought for
Mm-hmm.
sure it was going to be at least close. But yeah, I mean, even like as soon after the Domi goal, I thought, okay, here's the chance it's going to become a tight game. You know, we get the next one's 3-2, and then it gets exciting. But like not even less than 5 minutes later, Florida
Yeah.
scores again, and then like all your momentum's gone, and we started pe seeing people leave the building, and all around it just wasn't the greatest game 7.
Yeah, it's interesting what they do now, what they decide to do after this.
Yeah,
Tree Living, I'm sure we'll sit down with Berube, and they'll decide what kind of players they really want, what kind of players they don't. I think it'd be a sad thing if Marner left because he's such an incredible playmaker. We've seen that at every level. We've seen him at work at the Four Nations Cup when he set up McDavid for the winner, and we know he can play. We know he can play at this level, and it's just got to see how they can make it work financially.
yeah. I think that the Leafs management is in a very tough position right now. Because like you said, Marner's contract is up, and I know a lot of Leafs fans are wanting to change the narrative and change it on the core four, but when you have a player as talented as Marner, it's hard to look at that team, subtract Marner, and find ways to become better.
Yeah,
So it's going to take a lot, and like you said, I think Trey Living has a lot of work on his hand, and it'll,
yeah.
it'll definitely be a big off season for sure.
Right, and I think they got to sign Johnny Tavares too because he's coming off his best year as a Leaf, I believe, and the fact that they took the C off and maybe worked out for him. I'm going to think we're going to find out as time goes on that Austin Matthews was hurt more than we knew, and probably a few of them were. So that's
Yeah.
usually what the case is.
Mhm.
But anyway, onward we go, and let's talk about the teams that are still in it. Let's first of all, let's the Oilers. What this is the team we both picked to win it all originally. So I don't think I want to change that pick at all. Not judging by what I've seen, since the second game against LA, they have been dominant, winning 4 straight against the Kings, steamrolling the Vegas Knights in 5 games. And remember, that was without their best defenseman, Matthias Ekholm. From what I understand, we will see Ekholm at some point in this next series. So that has to bode well for the Oilers against the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, I'm not gonna change my pick either. I really like the looks of Edmonton. I thought last series they looked really good. I really thought that maybe dominated isn't the right word, but they definitely played a lot better than Vegas did. And I think they're going to be able to keep that train going, and I think they'll be able to beat Dallas. I think, Skinner played really a lot better than he did in the first round and the second round, and I think if he can keep that up, then they'll definitely be able to move on. And their main X factor is they have Connor McDavid, so I still think Edmonton's going to win.
Yeah, Connor McDavid is a man on a mission, and that's going to be the difference in these playoffs when the smoke clears, no doubt about
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
Interesting stat here, by the way. Like the Oilers, everybody's a plus on that team, I think, except for Jeff Skinner, strangely enough. But Jake Wallman is a plus 13.
Yeah.
So their defensive core has been really, really solid. And add Ekholm to that mix, and I go, that's an unstoppable force right there. So I think we're both picking the Oilers without much difficulty. I'm going to say, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think Wallman was definitely one of the more underrated trade deadline pickups, and I'm sure they're very glad that they did trade for him.
Yeah, and Dallas. I mean, Dallas has been good. I mean,
Yeah.
but they've had a 6 game series or 7 game series, a tough 6 game series. The interesting thing about they remind me a little bit of Carolina is they mix it up pretty well. Their points, like they don't have any kind of dominant first line or anything like that, but they do get the job done. They're a strong team. I don't think it's going to be an easy out. Ottinger's been great. They if probably from here on in they're going to have a goaltending advantage over any team they were to face. But it's just the offensive power of the Oilers team. This is a rematch from last year's Western Conference, and I expect the same result.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still gonna take Edmonton for sure.
Okay, and in the Eastern Conference, the Florida Panthers proved that they are why they are the defending champions. Like talk about a nice mix of strength and goaltending and they've got it all, and,
Hmm.
and they're going to be tough team to take out. Carolina, Freddie Anderson is a good goaltender. They've got a real nice mix. Svechnikov has been incredible. But again, they got a strong defense. Brett Burns is a guy who wants to win a Stanley Cup. So they got a lot of good players. It's going to be a tough series. It's going to be a good series, tough series. But I think I like Florida to come out of that.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm a bit torn between Carolina and Florida. Only because I feel like Carolina has been to the conference finals a few times now, and I feel like either this year is going to be, the same we've seen in past years where they're just not able to get the job done, or they are going to be able to get the job done and get to the finals. But on the other hand, too, is I think Florida is just such a good team that it's going to be hard to just like write them off, especially after, they played great against Tampa. The Leafs put up a good fight, but they played great in that game seven. And, even if they were to go down against Carolina, I still wouldn't write them off. So I think in the end, I think I'm going to go with Florida. And I believe that we are going to see a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup final. I just hope that this year it'll be Edmonton winning instead of Florida.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to see, and you know, I guess when you look at it, the Panthers have played a lot of hockey the
Hmm.
last couple of years, right? And as have the Oilers, but I just think that with the addition of Marchand is going to be enough for them to get past the uh, the Hurricanes, I think. And they've got enough in there. Because Marchand's got a pretty fresh tank, and despite the fact he's 36 or whatever he is, but he just seems to be pretty determined guy, and he brings like that X factor to the Panthers that really I don't think they get by the Leafs without him, and so he's going to be that. I think that's enough. I think to get by Carolina. Pretty evenly matched teams when you think about it. Both well coached.
Hmm.
and it's going to be a really good, tough series. I see it goes 6 or 7 games, but I think Florida takes it, and I think, like you said, we're going to get a replay of last year's Stanley Cup with a different result.
Yeah, I think the one thing for me too is when I look at Carolina, I they have a lot of like really good players and they have depth, but I'm not sure if they have one player that you could turn to take over a game and win that game for you. Like Florida, like you mentioned, they have Marchand, who's the definition of a playoff player. They have Kachuk, they have Barkov, they have Reinhart. But when you look at Carolina, like can Aho be that guy? Can Svechnikov? It's hard to pinpoint one player who can, carry the team on their back when they need it the most. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm taking Florida in six too.
Yeah. So yeah, and Panther Marchand, by the way, has 12 points. He's a plus 11. Lusteranen's got 12 points. He's a plus 11. What a
They've been a
what
great
a
line.
yeah, what a great team they've got. So anyway, it's been a lot of fun. Going to be a lot of fun. We're both picking the Oilers and the Panthers to meet in the Stanley Cup final, and let's reconvene when that happens. All right.
Sounds good to me.
All right. For Ross Granato, I'm Joe Tilley. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.